Today is Wednesday, April the 8th, 2009. My name is Jacqueline White and I'm with the Fannin County Historical Commission. I'm going to be interviewing Mr. Paul Woolsey. Mr. Woolsey worked many years for the local newspaper, the Bonham Daily Favorite, and he knows everything that went on in this town for at least 40 years. Paul, who were your parents and where were you born?
I was born in Durant, Oklahoma on November the 30th, 1930. And my parents were Ivy Lee and Mamie Woolsey. And my dad was born in Gainesville, Texas, and moved to Pontotoc, Oklahoma when he was approximately 2 years old. His dad was a pharmacist and owned a drugstore in Pontotoc, Oklahoma, and also had a ranch in Pontotoc.
Okay.
And my mother's father and mother came from Winona, Missouri, and his name was Horace Greeley Rice. He owned a sawmill in Winona, and also he was half owner of a carnival, and him and his half sister owned this carnival together. And he owned a home in Muskogee, Oklahoma, and I was born in my grandfather's house at 219 South First Street in Durant, Oklahoma. And he had shipped lumber to Durant to build two houses, one for him and one for one of his sons. And I was born in his house because they were living in Muskogee at the time after he had sold his sawmill in Winona, Missouri. My mother, I believe, there were 11 children in the family. And
Was your father from a big family too?
uh-huh.
He was another.
He had 4 or 5 brothers.
Did he?
And two girls, I believe. That's all I can remember.
Yeah.
But
Back on. Your mother?
my mother went to Southeastern State Teachers College, is what the name of the college was at the time, and became a teacher. And she taught in one-room school at several places in Oklahoma before she married. And after she married, she didn't teach. She didn't work at all, except she did work a little bit during the war at a egg candling plant where they I don't know if you know about eggs or not,
Yeah.
but they have to candle eggs.
Yes.
And
She did that.
she did that during the war as a help for the war effort, more or less. And my dad, he was not fit for service, but he just was I don't know what defects were, but he didn't pass his physical to go into service.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I have one brother, David, and 2 sisters. Anna Lou and I are pretty close to the same age, and then Ruth and David are close to the same age. There's quite a bit of difference there's 6 years difference in David and my age.
Okay. Well, excuse me.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask, were you in the military?
Yes, I was. I was first in the Oklahoma National Guard, 45th Division. And nearly all the young men in my graduating class were in the Army National Guard in order to make extra money. That's primarily why we were in there. But we went to summer camp at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And when I graduated from high school, I took a discharge from the National Guard there in Durant because I didn't want to drive back and forth to make meetings, and I thought I might join the National Guard down here. But in 1952, I was drafted into the service. Took my basic training in El Paso, Texas, at Fort Bliss on a tracker head in the radar unit there. And after graduation from basic training, the bottom half of the roster that went through basic with me, the top half went to Vietnam, the bottom half went to Germany, and that's the only time a W ever benefited me. My name, I was on the bottom of the list as a W. But
being a W.
being a W, so
So you went to
I got
Germany.
got to Germany in 1950, October of 1952, I believe. And was stationed in Worms, Germany. I had a 1725 MOS when I left basic training, but when I arrived at my new unit, they decided, well, that job was filled. They didn't need me in there, so they gave me a 1603, which is a 50 caliber squad leader on a 50 caliber machine gun unit, and so I had to learn the 50 caliber machine gun real quick and take charge of this quad mounted on a 2.5 ton truck. And this was a 90. We had 90 millimeter guns and 50 caliber guns, and we were just our home base was Worms, Germany, but we were basically all over Germany, just going on maneuvers at different times, far away as the Baltic Sea, and I can't remember all the other places.
But there weren't any hostilities at that time, were there? I mean, where you were?
Actually, the Cold War was going on there. And where we went up on the Baltic Sea, I can't remember the name of it because I didn't bring my other picture book, but the railhead kind of divided where we were up there. And we had to go into town to get our half tracks off of the rail cars, and the Russian sector was on the other side of it. And that's the only time they issued live ammunition for our rifles.
Wow.
There, because there could have been a problem there, but there wasn't. And so that was about the closest to anything that I got into.
Yeah, well, that was good. And then you came home, and did you meet your wife after you came home, or did you know her before?
No, I didn't. Let's see, I met her in, I guess in 1955, and we dated for several months. Didn't know for sure whether we'd ever get married or not. Really wasn't looking to get married. And, but we had some friends that kept kind of egging it on, and so in 1956 we decided to get married, and was married in Durant, Oklahoma at First Baptist Preachers Parsonage. And
on what day?
Friday, November the 13th in 1956.
And it's been lucky for you two. You've been together all that time.
Yes, it has. It's been a good marriage.
That's good. You have children?
I have one son, David Woolsey, and let's see, he was born in 1950, also April, and he was born in April the 9th in 1958.
He almost hit your anniversary, didn't he?
Yeah, almost.
And you have a daughter? Do you have a daughter or just David?
No.
Oh, okay. Excuse me.
Actually, I do in one respect, because we took when David was 1 month old, Pat's father passed away. He was 46 years old, and there were 3 children at home. And so Pat's mother was not physically able to take care of the family. So Pat and I took the mother and Katie, she was about 5 and a half, I guess, at that time, because we started her to school the next year. And the oldest sister took the 2 boys, Dennis and Kenneth, and she lived in Midland, Texas, and so she took them back to Midland, Texas, and started them at school out there.
Did you and Pat raise Katie then? Or?
Yes, we did. We raised Katie until she was grown and married. And she presently works for the Bonham State, it's not Bonham State Bank anymore. It's what is it? Legend.
It's now Legend, but
Legend.
But it was Bonham State until just not too long ago.
But she was one of the first BOE students to ever work in she started out as a BOE student and working in the bank, and she worked there until she got married. She actually worked there about 10 years, I think. And she married Jimmy Bethel, and Jimmy was working at a clothing store in Denison at the time, I believe Bell's department store. And then later he went to school to be a barber, and he worked in the barber business for quite some time before he went to work for Texas TP&L at the substation in Savoy.
Okay.
And Katie, in the meantime, had gone to beauty school and decided she wanted to be a beautician. And she left the bank and went to work in the as a beautician.
Ah,
But right now she is back at the bank due to insurance. When you're working for yourself, you don't have insurance, and
ah,
so she's back working at the bank. She's been back several years now.
in Bonham?
Uh-huh.
Oh, and what's her last name, Butler?
Katie Bethel,
How do you spell that?
Bethel.
Oh, okay.
Jimmy's family was raised. Jimmy was raised right down there, pretty close to the river, right across the street from Kuklehan's Rodeo Arena, up that road there by the church. And his mother is still living, but his dad passed away here a few years ago.
Well, tell me about David and his children.
David married Tracy. Wait a minute, forgot her last name. They married Tracy, and I can't remember what year they did get married. But actually, they were still in school. It was their senior year, I think.
Uh-huh.
And they had two children, Jeff, which was the oldest, and then a few years later they had
Fine.
all right. And Jessica was born in the Denison Hospital over there. And presently, Jeff had worked around several places, finished, well, actually, he didn't finish school here. I'm not sure what happened there. And Jessica finished high school. We raised them.
You raised both kids?
Well, part of the time.
Part of the time. Well, that's how
Yes.
grandparents do, though.
We had one or both of them at various times. So.
You probably didn't mind too much, did
Oh,
you?
no, we
They're good
loved
kids.
them. And presently, Jessica is in Minnesota right now.
Is he?
She is.
Oh, Jessica is.
Jessica is. And Jeff is out around Wichita Falls.
Okay.
And
Well, I guess another thing I wanted to ask you about is how did you ever get in the newspaper business?
well,
How did that start?
when I was growing up, if you weren't going to go to college, and there wasn't much chance that I would go to college because I couldn't afford it in the first place.
Uh-huh.
And usually if you went to work for somebody, you went to work as an apprentice. I just wish they had that nowadays, where kids could go to work as an apprentice and learn a trade. But the man next door to me had a welding shop, and he wanted to take me on as a welder apprentice, but I needed to be 16 years old, and I wasn't.
How old were you?
I was 13.
13.
I believe. So I went to work at the newspaper and had a paper route, and one of the guys, I just hung around at the newspaper more or less, and the guys wanted to hire me to come in and kill out pages in the afternoon after I got off my paper route. And first I worked in the mail room, and then started killing out pages in the afternoon after school, and working on weekends, cleaning linotype mats and doing various sundry odd jobs, because that was the time when most of the middle-aged people had gone to war, and they were hiring college boys or high school kids or nearly anybody that would help out, And so I got a foothold in there, and one guy kind of took a liking to me, and he wanted to make me a printer. So that was one of the best things that happened to me, I guess, growing up. And his name was Guy Dillon. He was from, he was from Texas, down around south of Dallas there somewhere. But he had worked at several different places, but he was an older man, and his son was in South Africa time. He was a chief warrant officer. And so he kind of took me under his wing and showed me
The ropes.
the ropes, more or less. And back then, it was all hot type. Of course, there was a lot to learn. And I always wanted to be a linotype operator, but they said, no, you don't want to be a linotype operator because the technology is coming up that it's going to eliminate those linotypes. And eventually it did. When the teletype setters came out. And so Durant bought a teletype setter and attached it to two of their machines, which eliminated a couple of positions there. So. And so after I graduated from high school, I saw had an ad in the paper for Bonham, need the printer in Bonham. I'd had in 3 years as an apprentice then, still serving my apprenticeship. And I came down on a Sunday and talked to Mr. Frank Sabota, who was the owner of the Bonham Daily Favorite at the time. It was located over in the 400 block of North Main Street. And he hired me to go to work for him. And I went back home and quit that Monday and came to work on Tuesday.
Can I ask, what did that job pay at that time? It was a startup position. Can you remember what they were going to give you? Was it like a good deal to you at that time?
At the time, he wanted to pay me 80 cents an hour until I got acquainted with a job here, and the shop foreman was only making $1 and a dime, and the line top operators were making $1 an hour at the time. The job I had at the Durant Democrat, I think I was making 75 cents an hour. That wasn't a big raise, but it was a full-time work because they had told me that there were some men coming back eventually, that they didn't want me. They wasn't going to let me work full-time all the time.
I'll just turn this on. You can say whatever you want,
Yeah.
but I didn't know what a line of type was.
No, I was just going to say that I found out early in life that I wasn't cut out to be an editor
Really?
or work as a reporter, because I was an editor of the school paper. And I found out right then that I could put the who, the what, the why, the when, and the where in 2 paragraphs, and that just wouldn't get it.
Yeah, that is important, and you taught me that.
But so I knew I better stick with what I was learning there at the newspaper in the mechanical department.
Well, what year did you come here then? When did Mr. Sloboda own the paper? I know he did, but I don't know.
My first day on the job was September the 22nd in 1948. And Mr. Sloboda continued to own the paper for about 2 more years. And in 1950, Thomas Frank Stewart, who had worked for the Durant Democrat and was was a Sunday school director at the First Baptist Church in Durant and a deacon in the church, and he was advertising manager for the Durant paper. And he came down with the backing of a group of people from the Durant called the Bass Group, B-A-S-S. And they bought the paper from Frank Sloboda. And while I was gone in the service in 1953, he moved the paper from North Main over to North Center Street, where it presently was, when you worked there.
Right.
And didn't upgrade the equipment that much, except we didn't buy that teletypesetter until 1955, when Aubrey and McAllister bought the paper. In the meantime, from the time Frank Stewart bought the paper and I was gone overseas, Frank Stewart left town with his society deal.
Oh, with the society editor?
Yes, they ran off together and got married.
Oh.
That left his wife and daughter here.
Oh dear, how sad.
And they were still here when I came home from Germany. And
I didn't know that job had so much potential.
And so Frank, they waited a while before they ever got married. They got a divorce. He went and lived with his mother in Oklahoma, and she went somewhere else. I'm not sure. But anyway, they ended up in Scottsdale, Arizona, I believe. And he started the first offset paper out there.
In Arizona.
And they lived out there the remainder of their life until the last. I had heard of Frank. He had Alzheimer's and had died in an institution.
That's sad. Yeah.
And only a few years ago did his wife pass away. They had adopted several children, I believe, after they got married, but I couldn't tell you anything about them.
Anything about them. So then you came back, and did you work for Aubrey McAllister?
After Jim Stevenson took over the paper, who was the advertising man, who had come from Durant too.
Yeah, I remember that.
And of course the paper was up for sale, and Aubrey McAllister, and can't remember the man's name, from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, was the partner with Aubrey. and they came down and bought the paper and took over the paper in I believe it was around 1955.
Now, was Mr. McAllister from Oklahoma too?
Yes,
Oh, I
but he
didn't
was,
know that.
but he was in. He was born and raised in Oklahoma, but he was living in Arkansas, running as an editor of a paper up there, I believe, or running a paper.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly of that, but that was one of the best things that happened to the Daily Favorite when Aubrey bought the paper. And his wife Audrey came in as a society editor, and they just put some new life into the paper, and it was really good.
They won a bunch of awards, didn't they,
Yes.
during the years they owned the paper?
Yeah.
Oh.
During that time, I mean, he kind of took me under his wing and wanted me to learn a lot about the business, end of it, and let me go to meetings with him out of town, and we went to a lot of shows together, and I just really enjoyed the family.
And you did learn a lot.
I did
on
learn
how to run a newspaper, didn't you?
a lot of things that you couldn't learn without somebody taking you and letting you learn. It's things you don't learn in school.
They were special people.
And
they did go to my church.
Mm-hmm.
First Presbyterian, and their son Don was back not too long ago visiting, because Sally Swan Williams Delk, she's married again, got up in the choir and said it was nice to have Don McAllister back in his hometown. Whatever.
Well, he never bothered to call me, even whenever Audrey and Mac were moving down to Taylor. He wasn't real nice to me.
Talked like a half an hour so
Yeah.
far. Okay, there we go.
Well, in the early days, when I first came to the Daily Favorite, we were casting everything in type high, which is for printing purposes. That was the same height as a lead slug that comes out of the linotype. And the pages, after you made up a page, it weighed probably over 100 pounds. And they had to be carried and put on the flatbed duplex press. After Aubrey McAllister bought the paper, I finally got him to change to a wood base for all the castings and cast them shell cast. And we used that process until we changed offset. But we'd bought a strip caster, which furnished our materials for casting shell cast. And that strip caster is right in there too. That
Is
we
it
bought.
in the museum?
Yeah.
So people could come over there and see these?
I'm not sure it's available to look at.
They've got a display on the newspaper
Have
over
it.
there.
And our news came in originally from United Press International. That's what we subscribed to all the time that we used the news service there. Of course, Associated Press had a news service also, but we didn't subscribe to that. It came in on the teletype, which is, I think I donated that to the museum also. And then it had, after we bought a teletype setter, and started putting our stories on tape and running them through the machine. The first machine we bought was a photon to run the tape through. It would you could punch in and punch that tape, and we'd set ads on it and everything, and it had from 6-point type to up to 72-point type on that photon, which was really ahead of its time, so to speak, because it was one of the first things out. And we bought this out of Florida before it was ever really developed, fully developed, I'll say. But they wanted to get it on the market, and we had lots of problems with it along the way, but it did a lot of good when we changed offset too. And,
To make it faster, to get the newspaper done every day, or
if you didn't have problems.
if you didn't have problems?
I can recall when we first started using it, I believe Ralph had already retired or gone up front and worked in the ad department, and I was left in the back by myself more or less, except for my son or somebody else, that usually in the camera department. And then we hired we used several different women work there earlier, punching, setting type. And but what I was going to say, we still had our linotype in operation there for a while as a backup.
Oh.
And whenever you started mixing, I'd have to set the classifieds on the linotype and take a proof of them in order to paste them up on the sheets. If you go back and look at early day paper on the scanner, and I believe all those tapes or pages have been scanned and are on the film right now in the library over there. They're not in the library, they're down at the Rayburn.
Yeah, they have them too.
And we had bought a 12-page Harris offset press it was a used press from Virginia Beach, Virginia. And one man came up, and I think he spent about 2 weeks there setting it up. And I got about 2 days with him before he left, and I had to be a pressman.
You were the boss.
I had to be the number one offset pressman. But anyway, it was a real good experience.
I bet it was.
But what they wanted to do when we went to offset was take on outside jobs. It's printed, we printed the Leonard paper and the Trenton paper and the White paper and the Van Alstyne paper and the Honeygrove paper and the Ladonia paper, and which Honeygrove and Ladonia were owned by the same person. And Mr. McAllister had bought the White paper and the Van Alstyne paper at the time, and just they made up their own pages there, and they'd bring them over and we'd shoot them on our camera and run their papers for them. And the only one, the last one I recall us printing was Trenton paper. Tom Mac Holmes still publishes the Trenton paper, and I believe he's taken it to Durant. That's what he told me the last time I talked to him.
I think he does.
And has it printed up there at Durant, my hometown.
Your hometown, yeah.
Of course, everyone knew that Sam Rayburn was the best thing that ever happened to Fannin County.
Right.
And during his time of being in the hospital here, Mr. McAllister would make a trip down to see him just about every day at a prescribed time usually, and talk to him. And of course, we were always, Cleveland Hogue worked at the newspaper at that particular time, and he was our photographer also. And Mr. Rayburn called Cleveland his personal photographer because Cleveland made every function that Mr. Rayburn had anything to do with, you know. And of course, after during the time of Mr. Rayburn's death, the Associated Press and the United Press and every news agency that was in existence then had correspondents in town, photographers and reporters both, and they used our facilities. United Press used our facilities. Associated Press was used in the there was a photography shop right on the end of the building there next to the post office.
Okay.
And photography studio, we should have said. They used that facility, and the rest of them, I'm not sure, they were scattered everywhere in motel rooms and everything, and sending wire stuff back to their main office there. And we had pretty good coverage from the Daily Favorite there. Yeah. I still have
They put together a book, didn't they, on
yes.
On everything that happened up through his death?
Mm-hmm. And I think I still have the papers on Sam Rayburn at home that we printed during the time of his passing, that has all the presidents were here, you know, that particular way. And at that particular time, I lived in the 200 block of West 7th Street, and his funeral procession came right by my house that day.
Wow.
And that was one of the longest funeral processions I've ever seen.
I imagine it was.
Lyndon Johnson, you know, was president at that time.
He was vice president because Kennedy was here.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
Yeah.
He was the vice president.
Yeah.
Well, him and Mr. Rayburn were very close, you know, during his time there.
Gives me chills. There's such a time.
Yes. All total, I worked for the Daily Favorite for 42 years and 6 months. Actual time in printing business was almost 47 years.
Wow.
Of course, I've had a few other jobs along the way.
Well, who were the, yeah, you went to work for the VA, didn't you, after you left the
Yeah,
paper?
after I left the paper, didn't do anything for almost a year.
Uh-huh.
So I went to work for the L.H. Rather School and worked there as a janitor for about 6 months until the VA called me and said they had an opening for me. And that was the most enjoyable time at the VA as I went to work out there. And I only went to work part-time as a part-timer. And I thought, well, this works out just right for me. I don't
Yeah.
want to work full-time anymore.
Right.
And but I enjoyed working, waiting on the veterans. I learned what we had to do out there. Everything went on in the kitchen in about 3 years, and was promoted to supervisor, and stayed on as supervisor until I got in about 12 years out there.
Wow.
And I enjoyed that. Just having the different people, being in contact with them, the people that worked for me out there, it was just an enjoyable time. Not near the stress that you have on a day-to-day operation of a newspaper. We changed over the system at the VA from we were cooking all the food there and shipping it to Dallas VA.
Wow, my.
That is still in progress right now.
They cook all the food at the one here and send it to the Dallas VA?
Yes, ma'am.
That doesn't seem very efficient, does it? Or
Actually, it is.
it is?
Dallas was having quite a problem keeping good help down there, and they were always short-handed. And actually, we could reduce our staff out there as far as cooks were concerned. Of course, the VA was never run. The VA as a whole, I mean, never run real good because every year or every few years they'd change administrators or stuff, and you just didn't have any continuity in the place. But we changed to this new system out there they have, and everything is, instead of serving hot food, plating everything hot, we plate it cold now and put it in the
Microwave?
No, put it in a freezer and freeze it. And then when we're ready for it, we bring it out, put it on the plate, and put it in this, I can't remember, a thermodyne unit. That's what they are.
Ah.
And it's a big unit that plugs into the wall, to an outfit on the wall, and it heats. It has a heat on one side and cool on the other side, refrigeration unit. And that's what they're presently using out there.
Mike, and was there a couple others maybe?
Well, Bob Cantrell was our editor for many years. He was editor when I came to the paper.
Oh, he was.
And he stayed till I believe he retired after Aubrey and McAllister sold out. And what happened in the meantime, when Aubrey sold, the paper had a little adverse publicity, I guess. People got kind of crossways with the paper in some respects, and so they wanted all new staff up front. And they proceeded to get a new staff up front, and they wanted a different editor. Let's see, John Rainey. I can recall John Rainey being one of the editors there, which was real good. He was from Mesquite, I believe. And he wrote several historical columns for the daily paper.
Yeah.
And I can't remember, another one came from up around Tulsa, Oklahoma. Nearly all of them wrote a story about me and put it on the front page at one time or another. If you go through all the files, you'd run across some of them, and like that one right there or something.
Yeah.
But and then I guess the original people that were at the Daily Paper when I went to work there are the ones that you just get attached to. They're just like family to you, know. Ralph Allen was, and Cleveland Hogue and Billy Hogue were just like my brothers, more or less. That's because you had to work together in order to get a paper produced, more or less. And there couldn't be any friction going on or you never would get out, because all of them were deadlines all the time. Of course, we didn't always make deadlines, but we got a paper out somehow.
Was there ever a day you missed a paper? Ever? Did you ever have any conditions where, weather-wise or anything, you couldn't get one out? Or
in 1949 and 1950, we had severe ice storms, and the power was out, I believe in 49, it was out about 2 weeks. And I can recall Frank Sabota coming to my house on a Saturday night, it must have been after midnight, and waking me up. Got to go to work. Said they got the lights back on. We're going to get a paper out. Oh, my goodness, it's 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. I wasn't in any shape to get up and go put it out. Because I'd had been out that night.
But you did it.
We did it anyway. And then in 1950, after Frank Stewart bought the paper, we had another ice storm, and we were down for a while. But during I believe both of those ice storms, after the first week, I think we finally got a large generator, borrowed it from Perrin Air Force Base, and set it out in front of the building and run a line into the building, and we could operate one linotype at a time, or we could shut everything else off, and then we could run the press at one time. That's about what the electricity would do. And the lights would be, dim, but it's enough to see it.
Yeah.
But it was something, trying to get out of paper under those circumstances.
I imagine it was.
I don't recall us ever missing another paper.
Well, I was wondering if you ever had to take it like to Durant or somewhere else to have it printed because things were bad.
We
here.
always had an agreement with, the best agreement we ever had was with Sherman, I guess. Because they were, after we went to offset, they were offset too, and we had a working agreement where we'd take theirs or they'd take us.
Okay.
But it just never did come down to that where we had to.
Yeah.
But
it was there. If
it
you
looked
needed
like
it.
It looked like several times. I know
have to.
several times our typesetter was down, and we got Sherman to set some type for us during those days. But
Well.
I can't recall any other time that we had to have it printed out of town.
Well, what do you think of the fact the town has a different paper today and it's a 1 day a week paper? That's kind of hard to...
The people that still remember me and know that I work for the daily paper, they said, sure wish we had a good newspaper again every day.
Me too. Yeah, me too, Paul.
They want a daily newspaper. They don't want to hear it on TV.
Yeah.
And read it a week later. And of course, I'm sure they're doing the best they can out there under the circumstances and with the crew they have, and they try to use modern technology and are using it in the way we would be doing it if we were still running daily newspaper.
Right.
But I read their newspaper and enjoy reading but they need probably some professionals to get a hold of it for a little while and show those girls out there that what the newspaper is all about.
Well, is there anything you'd like to say in closing about your years at the newspaper or your time in Bonham? I guess you've lived here for years now.
Well, after
church too.
After being here all these years, it's my adopted hometown, more or less.
Right.
And when I came to Bonham, I really didn't plan on staying. I thought, after I get finish as an apprentice, I'm gonna move on to the city. But when you get acquainted with people and you're accepted in a community and you get well acquainted,
it's home.
You can't do that in the city as you can in a small town. And I've enjoyed living in Bonham. Everything hadn't always been to my liking, but that's part of life.
Yeah.
And in 1954, after I came back from the service, they were building the 7th and Main Baptist Church. And of course, Ralph Allen, who was my shop foreman, and Cleveland Hogue, one of my best friends, were members of the 7th and Main Church. And I, being already a Baptist, started going to church with them. Ralph was the first one to invite me to go to church on a Sunday. He came by and picked me up. And went to church, and we were meeting there on Main Street where the old Daily Favorite used to be.
Oh my goodness.
And it's just kind of like being at home again. Of course, I knew most of the people there. I didn't know all of them, but I knew a lot of them because they were in business, people around town, and people that I'd already been acquainted with. And I'm still a member of the Seventh and Main Church. I'm a deacon in the church, and my wife doesn't sing in the choir anymore, but I still sing in the choir.
Do you?
And we have gone through several pastors at that church and seen our ups and downs, but we have survived it all.